I'm preparing a sermon for a given Sunday, I kind of have a wide range in my mind of my potential audience, right? And so I have like several former pastors that I'm going to be preaching to, but I also, you might be surprised to know that in West Edmond, it's incredibly diverse, all right? Incredibly diverse because we have, my daughter goes to school about a mile from the church, and she had a diversity day at her school. And on that day, there was 13 different languages spoken. And so I have to be prepared to not only speak to the former pastor, but also speak to the person that is foreign to the gospel. You know, like they're foreign to church. Like I got to be ready to speak truth into somebody that doesn't know a whole lot about Jesus like you guys. Because here's the reality with this group. You go to more church than I do. Right? You got to be here Tuesdays and Thursdays, whether you want to or not. You're probably involved at church on Sundays and maybe even on Wednesday nights. And so this group right here, as I'm like praying through, what do I need to tell this group? What does God need to tell this group? I came to the realization that my role today is to encourage you. Right? It's encourage you in your specific area. All right? I want to encourage the young man who is addicted to pornography. Right? I want to encourage the young woman who is struggling with maybe identity, struggling with comparing herself, just struggling in different areas. I want to speak to the professors who know the Bible better than I do, but maybe we struggle at home, and home is tough right now. A little chaotic with the wife or with the husband or with the kids. I want to speak to an audience that knows the answers, but struggles just like I do to live it out. Right? We know the answers. Your checklist looks good. Like if we're going to make a checklist of what it looks like to be a good American Christian, boom, you guys got it. I mean, you go to Randall University, you probably had some level of like Bible class in the past week, right? Like you have to go to chapel. You got it. I mean, your checklist looks great. I'm a very checklist person. All right, raise your hand if you have a checklist in your mind, at least that you do. Probably not a whole lot. Maybe some. All right, some do. But my guess is, so for me, it's like I get to the office and I make a list, and boom, I'm going to show you how productive I am because I do this to all these things. This is a great feeling to me to mark off something. And my guess is not a lot of you have a written checklist. My guess is, raise your hand if you would identify as horribly unorganized. Is that anybody? Yeah, okay. So like we're probably more like unorganized, but here's the deal. Here's what we have in common. I may write something down and you may not, but we both have certain things in our life that when we wake up, certain things that we want to accomplish by the time we go to bed. All right, certain things that we want to do, and we want to do them well. And maybe if we do these well, when we go to bed, we determine it was a good day. We did good today. Maybe we did good in our walk with Christ today. We did a few things. Maybe we read our Bible. Maybe we prayed. Maybe we got to class on time. Maybe we stayed awake during the lecture. Maybe we actually stayed awake during chapel. Like it was a good day. Right? And on your checklist, maybe you binge watch Netflix, maybe you play video games for endless hours. Right? Something is going on that at the end of the day, we can sit there and be like, boom, that was a great day. On paper, guys, you're knocking it out of the park. But there's a problem, right? We know we're not. Like on paper, you are an all-star Christian. But you know, deep down inside, that's not really how it feels. Right? How is it that we can do so many things for God? We're so busy doing things for God. Why is it that we can come here on a chapel on a Thursday like we always do every Thursday and feel so distant from God? I mean, we're doing tons of things for Him. I mean, not only are you going to Randall University, but you got Bible classes, you got things you got to do. You're doing good at school, like you're active in your church. You're doing all these things. Then why is it that my guess is there's a huge percentage of this group right here that if the truth be known, we're walking into here. We're walking in here, and yeah, we have to be here, but if the truth is known, we're walking in here consumed in addiction. We're walking in here consumed with past mistakes. And so we come here maybe with sadness, with grief, with remorse, with guilt, with shame. Why? I mean, we're doing all these things. Why does He feel so distant? Right? This is an issue we can all struggle with. And on paper, everything looks good. But we know it's not. So I have this mentor, all right? And I would encourage you to have somebody in your life that's maybe a little further in the faith. right? They're a little further along in the journey, and somebody in your life that you give permission to speak truth into your life, all right? So I have this guy, I meet with him maybe a few times a month, absolutely has my permission to speak the truth into my life, and sometimes it's brutal, all right? So the only way, like I told myself, the only way I'm going to continue this relationship is if I tell him everything, like everything, all right? So sometimes it's a little harsh, and he tells me like it is, and he told me this. He said, Matt, your checklist mentality, read my Bible, prayed, prepared a sermon. Your checklist mentality is keeping you from having the faith that God is calling you to. I'm like, what in the world are you talking about? My checklist mentality says I'm dominating this thing, except I know I'm not. Like I know I'm kind of struggling. This was in a season, I got diagnosed with what's called muscle tension dysphonia. It means it hurts to talk every time I talk. I have like a throat issue, which kind of stinks for a pastor, right? Kind of a bummer. But I had this, and it was in a dark season, you know, and things, I just, like, the checklist was good, right? Like, I was reading, I was going and making visits like pastors do, but something just didn't feel right. And he said, this checklist mentality is getting in your way, because here's the problem. If we wake up, and in the back of our minds, we got a set of things that we got to do, and if we do those before we go to bed, then it was a good day. If we're driven by a checklist, then we have a misunderstanding of what success really is. Right? So for me, it looks like I can wake up, read my Bible, I can do some other things. I can go to work and I can mark off my checklist, right? I can prepare a sermon, I can go visit somebody, I can go speak at Randall Chapel, like I can do these things. But then, like at the end of the day, at 5 o'clock, I can go one last time, and it's a glorious feeling. But then I go home and I can be rude to my wife. I can go home and I can ignore my children. I can go home and be lazy. I can go home and just be in a bad mood. But in my mind, it was a win because my checklist says that it was a win, except for the fact that it was a horrible loss. Right? I missed it. And so it causes this disconnect. For you guys, it can be, you do all these things. You're going to a Christian college. I mean, my goodness, right? You do all these things. You make a good grade on your Bible class, right? You're dominating systematic theology. You go to chapel. You actually stay awake in chapel, and like things are good, but then you go home and you're by yourself and you're looking at pornography one more time. Right? You go home and once again you're consumed with thoughts of I'm nothing and I'm terrible. I'll never be like she is or like he is. Maybe thoughts of greed or thoughts of anger, like we did everything right. Why are we doing so much wrong? Have you ever wondered that? Like, have you ever wondered why we keep doing all these things right, yet we keep doing all these things wrong? There's like, this doesn't match. So it causes guilt, it causes shame, it causes remorse. Why is this? We're going to see today really quick that God doesn't want to be on your checklist. Right? He's not on your to-do list. He doesn't want to be a part of your schedule. He doesn't want your Tuesdays and Thursdays from whatever time chapel is, right? He doesn't want your Wednesday nights at church. He doesn't want your Sunday mornings. He wants you and all of you, every part of you. He wants to be involved in every single aspect of your life. And so as I'm thinking through, okay, so what's the encouragement? What is it that I feel God needs to relay to this group of people? And it's what I'm really dealing with, what I'm personally just absolutely going through. And my encouragement to you is begin to dwell with God. Begin to dwell. Everybody say dwell. All right, so probably a word you don't use a whole lot. And you're like, I don't even know what that fully, like, that's kind of weird, right? I want to read to you a passage. This is Psalm 91. Psalm 91 has absolutely changed the course of my life in the past, I'd say, 6 months. It's incredible. It says, he who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. All right, so this word dwell comes from the Hebrew word yashab, all right? And yashab means to remain in, to abide in, to sit with, to dwell. Right? Like picture that, like to sit with, to remain with, to abide, like you're dwelling with the person that's next to you right now. My guess is, if you're like me, this doesn't always describe my walk with Christ. Now, I'm good at doing things for him, right? Like I got it. The checklist is good. It looks great. Your mamas and your daddies think you got it all together, but you don't because we're doing all these things. We're just not dwelling with him. We're not truly with him because this is different, right? When we're dwelling with him, he truly becomes the priority in our life. And you're saying, like, I'm going to a Christian college. Clearly, he's a priority in my life. No, he's the priority. Right? He's everything. He's it. Right? And so it means, like, we read the Bible not because of some, like, obligation in order to be a good Christian. We read the Bible because we absolutely need it. Because we're desperate for it. It is our daily bread. Like we come to a point where we can't fathom going a day without reading God's word. Right? We don't just pray because that's what good Christians are supposed to do. We pray because we're dwelling with him. It's like you talking to your roommate, like we're just in conversation. This is the difference. Right? And when we can get to this level, we can make this switch, that a group of people right here, we're no longer about God, but we're with God. If we can make this switch, I would encourage you and I would tell you that everything can change in your life. The guilt and the shame and the remorse and the frustration and the constantly doing the things you don't want to do, that can be different when you walk into this chapel. It doesn't have to be that way when we dwell. I want to talk about two things really quick. Dwelling with God can lead us to being free from the sin that controls us. You've heard that said, right? Like you've heard people say, like, you can be free from the sin. Like, and you're like, yeah, not so much. My guess is, well, not my guess, every single person in here, two hands up, we struggle with sin, right? It's brutal. It's brutal. But my gut tells me there's some in here that it's not a struggle, it's like a full-fledged war going on. Our battle with lust is consuming us. That's all we think about. Like our internal battles of maybe it's anger, maybe it's pride, maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's deception. Like we got some legit things going on and we're really struggling. Like it's not a struggle, it's an absolute war. All right, so I want to read this passage because my guess is you've had pastors come up here and people in your life and well-meaning people say, just give this to God. Right? Give your problems to God. You went to camp and you prayed these, you cried these tears and you prayed a prayer and it's like just give this to God. And you did what you thought was giving it to God, like when you were like, God, I give this to you. But then what happened? You kept doing it, right? Kept doing it. But I said I gave it to God, but we kept doing it. I want to read this because I think this could change everything for you. It did for me. It says, surely when we're dwelling, all right, this is assuming we're dwelling with God. We're remaining, we're sitting with him, we're abiding with him. We're not about him, we're with him. It says, surely he will save you from the fowler's snare, the bird catcher's snare, and from the deadly pestilence, this disease. He will cover you with his feathers. Picture this, all right? This is an incredible picture. He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and your rampart. See, when it comes to our struggles and our battles with sin and our desire to change and not do certain things, I believe that a lot of people are like me, that we go a big chunk of our life with a completely wrong strategy. See, here's how we have it, all right? And this might resonate with some of you. If over here we have our relationship with God, and over here we have that sin in your life, and it's different for you than it is the person next to you, right? Whatever it is. Maybe it's the way you talk to people. It's your anger, it's your lust, it's your pride, it's your greed, whatever it is. This is our strategy, all right? In order to have this be better, our relationship with God, we want this to be better. In order to make this happen, we need to push this down, right? If we push this down, then this will go up. And so our whole life, like sinners around, just don't do this. Right? What's our checklist? Get through the day without doing this. And when we do, boom, good day. We ignore the fact of all the other sin that we struggled with, but we didn't struggle with that one, right? And so, boom, it was a good day. What happens when we do this one thing that we wake up and the one thing that we don't want to do? What happens when we actually do it? Guilt, shame, remorse, regret. And so this is our strategy. We want this to grow, but our strategy is, in order for this to grow, shove this down. This is the completely wrong strategy. See, is what we need to do, instead of going here, fixing this so that this gets stronger, is what we need to do. We must go here. We go here in our sin, in our deep struggles, like we go here and we begin to dwell with God. We begin to dive deep in His Word. We begin to pursue what He wants in our life. You know what's going to happen? What does it say? His faithfulness, not our faithfulness. His faithfulness will be our shield and our rampart. A rampart is a fortified wall. Right? Picture that. Like some of you, like that's an amazing picture. The sin that we're struggling with, just imagine if we're dwelling here, there is a giant shield, a rampart, a fortified wall between you and the enemy that wants to snatch you. But we do this all wrong every single day. Like, just get through the day without doing this. We have the completely wrong strategy. How about we get through the day dwelling with Him, diving in Him? His faithfulness will be our shield and our rampart. His grace is sufficient. We must change our strategy. See, it's so easy. It's so easy to look like an amazing American Christian when you go to Randall University. You look the part, okay? Like, your parents, man, they've entrusted you into this Christian university. They're proud of you that you're here, right? Like your home church. Let me just tell you, like they are so proud that you're here, right? You're in all these classes, like you're doing all these things, but my gut tells me there's some of us here that we know we're pulling a quick one on everybody because we're in deep sin. Deep, deep sin. Now, our checklist looks amazing. You look the part, but deep down inside, we know we're not. And I am utterly convinced. This is for me, like this is my life. I'm utterly convinced I was in this season so much in my life because my strategy was all wrong. My strategy was like, conquer this. Don't do this. And now my strategy is dwell here. Be here. Right? Just wake up craving dwelling with God. And when we do this, it leads us to the second thing, all right? The final thing I want to talk about. When we dwell with God, it rescues us from the destruction that the sin brings. Right? Sin is destructive, right? And when our focus is to not do this, but we keep doing this, all right, we're experts at doing this. When our focus is over here, we're going to reap the destruction of our sin. You guys are in a season right now in your life where it's very easy to not think about how the sin that we have as college students can determine the course of the rest of our life. But let me tell you, it absolutely can. All right, what does it say? The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Like that's what the thief does. Steal, kill, and destroy. This is the description of what he wants to do to your life. He wants to take your credibility before you've earned it. He wants you to not have that job in ministry because you're ruining it right now. That's what he wants. All right? He wants to get you involved, like get you deep into an addiction that it absolutely consumes things later in your life. He wants the decisions you're making now to ruin the future intimacy you have with your future spouse that you haven't even met. Ruin it now. That's what he wants. He wants the decisions you're making today to one day snowball into something that absolutely destroys the relationship between you and your beautiful children. Like that's what he wants. He wants it destroyed. He wants it stolen. He wants to take it. All right? He wants you to be involved in a lifestyle today that's totally normal, like your peers, like totally acceptable, not weird. It's even weird if we don't do this. Like he wants you to be involved in a lifestyle that can cause you to absolutely ruin credibility for a future job. This is what he wants. So don't think for a second that there's not consequences to our actions. It may not be this week. It may not be this month, but it's a-coming. All right? Consequences are coming. So, that's scary stuff because we spend our whole life just not doing this, but we keep doing this. And then it's like there's consequences. This is bad news. All right? This is bad news. But listen to what he says. Verse 8. Moving up to verse 5. You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks the darkness, nor the plague that destroys at midday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near to you. See, when we dwell, when our focus is over here, we don't have to fear the destruction of our future marriage. When we're dwelling and we're with God and we're sitting with him, we're abiding with him, we don't have to fear our future credibility being lost. The second we have to fear that is when we stop dwelling. Because it says 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it won't come near to you. In other words, as you get older, it's not going to take very long for you to see people you love, people you trust, they're going to make some really bad choices in life. There's going to be people as you get older that you just assume they're always going to be married, and they'll get a divorce because of terrible decisions. Right? Like you're going to experience people that are incredible people, and they are incredible people, but they're going to get involved into an addiction that's going to take everything. Not because they're bad people, but because they stop dwelling. But it says, if we dwell, 1,000 may fall at our side. Whether it's in ministry, whether it's in future careers, whether it's families, 1,000 may fall at our side, 10,000 at my right hand, but not me. And if we dwell with God, it's going to happen to other people. You're going to see people struggle. You're going to see future marriages crumble. You're going to see integrity being lost, but it's not going to be you because we're dwelling with God. This is a promise that he gives when we dwell with him. Finishing up right here. You will only observe with your eyes and see the punishment of the wicked. If you make the Most High your dwelling, even the Lord who is my refuge, then no harm will befall you. No disaster will come near your tent, for he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. You're at a spot in life that's unlike any other that you will ever experience. Right? You are quite literally laying the foundations of the rest of your life. In your job, in your future spouses, in future relationships, how you handle people, how the integrity you have, but you're also establishing norms the other way, foundations the other way. That it's normal to have addiction be a key part of our life. It's normal to do what everybody else does. This is normal. So we're establishing these things at a very early part right here. Like you are setting the stage for the rest of your life. And we can do this and think we can get away with anything, but I'm telling you, if we don't dwell with God, destruction comes. And this is something that can be absolutely petrifying. As a pastor, I've seen other pastors, I've had pastors man, I want to be like that someday. That dude, that church is amazing. That guy's got it all together. I want to be like that guy. I'm a young pastor. I look up to other people, right? And then they have some sort of moral failure. It's not because they're a bad person. They're fantastic. It's not because they're a bad leader. My goodness, they're an incredible leader. It's because they simply stop dwelling with him. And so I have to know this can happen to me. I'm capable of this. I mean, if those people are capable, Matt Wheeler is capable, because I'm nothing. Even though Chris said I'm everything, all right? I'm not, right? We have to understand we are capable of ruining everything, so we must dwell with him. So my guess is your checklist looks good. It looks great. But my guess also is we're still struggling with sin. Deep addiction, deep struggles. Change your strategy. Mix it up. Your whole life you've been focused on not doing this. Change it. You can keep this strategy, all right? You can keep having your focus when you wake up. The goal is to not do this. If that's the goal, get through the day without doing this. You can keep your strategy, but I promise you it's just a matter of time before you do this. Guaranteed. I mean, what's your track record? 100%, right? The strategy must change. Dwell with God. I'm convinced, Randall University, if this group of people begins to dwell with God, everything can change. Everything can change in your life, in your future marriages, in your future relationship with your children. The course is completely different when we go here instead of when we go here.